The Wildfire. Introduction. In every village, there is a tale that waits to be told when the sky turns orange. This one was about fire. Not the kind in the cooking pot. Not the one that warms the elders at night. This was a fire that once ran wild, roaring through fields, chasing goats and shadows, leaping from hut to hut until nothing remained in this place but ash and memory. It happened years ago. No one spoke of it much. But everyone remembered. Children were told, "Do not play with fire." But no one ever explained why. So when a boy named Musa found a forgotten box of matches behind his uncle's house, the silence around fire became his question. And questions, left unanswered, often grow louder than warnings. Chapter 1. Musa and the Matchbox. Musa was 12. His feet were always dusty. His mind moved faster than his hands. And his eyes, wide, bright, always looking too long at things others passed by. He lived in the village of Sangola, a place where the wind carried old songs and the trees still leaned as if whispering secrets to one another. Most days, Musa ran errands for his uncle, herded goats, or played under the acacia trees with boys who could whistle loud enough to scare monkeys. But Musa, he liked the quiet. He liked corners. He liked finding things others forgot. One evening, while helping clean his uncle's old storage hut, he found a small tin box under a woven mat. Faded blue, rusted edges. But when he shook it, click click, the sound was sharp and familiar. He opened it. Inside, matches. His heart beat faster, not from fear, but from curiosity. "Fire," he whispered. "Real fire." The elders always said to stay away. They say fire has no friends and many other things about fire. But all these were parables that Musa could not understand. He had never seen fire misbehave in any way. He only saw it used for cooking, for warming and other helpful things. He saw it under pots and in lanterns. So why was everyone so afraid? That night, under his mother's woven ceiling, Musa stared at the box hidden beneath his sleeping mat. The wind outside carried the dry breath of harmattan. Crickets sang low. He whispered again. Just one flame. Just to see. But he didn't strike. Not yet. Because something in the dark, something not loud, not sharp, seemed to say, "Don't do it." Chapter 2. The Flame. The next morning, Musa slipped away before breakfast. The sun had barely lifted its head. Dew clung to the grass, and the smell of ash still lingered from the night's cooking fires. He walked beyond the village fence, to a clearing near the termite mound where lizards warmed their backs and ants worked without question. He knelt. He opened the matchbox. He picked one stick. Just one. He struck it. Hiss. Snap. Flame. A small orange bloom on the tip of wood. It danced, not wildly, but with purpose. Musa's heart raced. But not with fear. The flame bent in the breeze. It crackled softly. And in that flicker of light, Musa saw something he didn't expect. A face in his mind's eye. His grandmother's hut. The story of the fire long ago. He shook the match out quickly. Smoke rose. His fingers smelled of charcoal. "Is this the danger?" he asked aloud. But the flame had already gone. Later that day, he lit another. This time, he placed a dry leaf on the ground. He watched it curl, shrink, surrender and turned into ashes. The next day, he tried with grass near the termite mound. The flame spread faster. He stamped it out. His sandal smoked. He didn't tell anyone. Not because he wanted to be bad, but because he didn't yet know what he was becoming. And still, the villagers said, "Don't play with fire." No one said, "Here is how you control it. Here is when it serves. Here is when it destroys." So Musa kept learning, alone. And fire, patient and proud, kept watching. Chapter 3. The Smell in the Wind. 3 days later, the goats began refusing to graze near the termite mound. The smell of smoke lingered in the early air, thin and sharp. No one noticed it but the old barber Tuay did. He was the village's oldest man, blind in one eye, voice like grinding stone, and memory long enough to hold 4 generations. That morning, He stopped mid-walk, lifted his nose to the wind, and said, "Fire has walked here." No one understood what he meant. Not until he walked straight to the edge of the field, pressed his hand to a patch of blackened grass, and nodded. It was small, but it spoke. By sunset, word had spread. Children were questioned. Mothers checked under mats. And Musa? He hid the matchbox beneath a pile of firewood and kept his eyes on the ground. That evening, Baba Tuay came to visit him. He did not accuse. He did not shout. He sat on the mat, asked for water, and then spoke. "I was your age when the fire came last. It started from one careless hand. It ended with 30 homes in ash." Musa didn't move. We tell children not to play with fire, but we do not tell them why. So they wonder. And wondering, sometimes, is more dangerous than disobedience. Musa finally looked up. "I didn't mean harm," he said. Baba Tuay nodded. "I know. That is why I came to tell you." He opened a small pouch. Inside, ash, coal, a worn flint stone. Fire has two faces. One that feeds. One that devours. Which one you meet depends on the questions you ask. That night, Musa sat for hours listening. The flames in his heart, finally given names. Chapter 4. Baba Tuay's Teachings. The next morning, before the sun had risen, Baba Tuay stood at the edge of the clearing. Musa met him there, matchbox in hand, but with his shoulders lower, his voice quieter. "Show me," he said. Baba nodded. He pulled out a wide calabash filled with soil and placed it gently on the ground. Fire belongs to the earth before it belongs to our hands. He taught Musa how to build a safe ring of stones, how to dig a small pit, how to choose wood that whispers, not screams, how to leave space for air, like a guest invited to sit. "You do not light fire to see yourself powerful," he said. "You light fire to see others fed." Musa struck a match, this time with a purpose. He watched the flame catch on dried husk, slowly stretch, then sit calmly in the circle. It did not roar. It did not flee. It waited. "You see," Baba said. "Fire listens when you speak its language." That day, Musa returned to the village not with secrets, but with questions of his own. He asked the blacksmith about coal. He asked the cook about heat. He asked the shepherd about the dangers in the wind. Each time he learned, he returned to Baba Tuay and shared. A bond was forming, not just between elder and boy, but between the past and the future. 1 week later, Baba Tuay gathered some boys and girls under the baobab tree. He sat in the shade and spoke while Musa built a fire before them. Slow, careful, and respectful. He taught what he had learned. Fire gives light, but it is not light. Fire boils water, but it does not quench thirst. Fire can protect, but never without risk. The children listened. The flames danced. The wind carried ash, not as a warning, but as a memory. The matchbox now stayed with Musa. But it no longer carried danger. It carried knowledge. Baba Tuay placed his hand on Musa's shoulder. "The fire that once made this village afraid may one day be the fire that cooks our peace." And Musa smiled. For the first time, the fire inside him matched the one before him, calm, ready, and full of purpose. Chapter 5. The Test of Flame. The dry season deepened. The grass browned. The goats thinned. The river near Sangola shrank to a whisper. One afternoon, a shout rang from the north fields, loud, sharp, urgent. "Fire!" The wind had caught a discarded spark, maybe from a careless traveler, maybe from the sun's bite on broken glass. Whatever its source, the flame had leapt into the dry brush and begun its race. The villagers ran. Buckets, blankets, branches, anything they could grab. Musa ran too, but this time, he ran toward the fire. He saw its hunger, leaping across the dry maze, licking at the edge of a fence. He remembered Baba Tuay's words. Fire does not choose its path. People do. Musa shouted to the others. "Dig a trench. Clear the dry leaves. Stop feeding it." They paused, surprised. But then they obeyed. Musa led a line of boys to strip the grass in a half-circle, creating a barrier. He directed the older men where to pour the water. He told the women where to move the children. The fire hissed, growled, but it could not pass. By sunset, the flames died in the trench, coughing, not roaring. The crops were saved. The huts were untouched. And the villagers stood in awe. "That boy," one elder whispered. "He commands fire." Baba Tuay shook his head gently. "No. He respects it. And because of that, it listens." That evening, under the full moon, the village gathered. A small fire was lit, not in fear, but in peace. Musa stood beside it. Not as a boy who played, but as a young man who understood. He opened the matchbox slowly, held it high. "This no longer holds danger," he said. "It holds responsibility." He handed it to another boy, not to play, but to learn. And so it began, a new way in Sangola, where fire was not feared, but taught, where stories were not silenced, but shared, where the flames of the past no longer burned, but warmed. The end. Thank you for listening to The Wildfire. This is a story not about danger, but about discipline, about how silence can lead to fear, and how knowledge can bring peace. May we raise children not just to fear the flame, but to understand it. Dedication. The book is dedicated to those who teach with patience, and to those who ask the questions that others fear to ask.